Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about something that's shaking up the global defense scene and could have massive implications for the ongoing war in Ukraine. Yes, I'm talking about Russia, and more specifically, about a big potential change to its massive military budget. Reports have emerged that Russian President Vladimir Putin's enormous $172 billion defense budget might soon face cuts. Now you might be wondering, how is this possible? Isn't Russia one of the world's biggest military spenders? And what does this mean for its war efforts in Ukraine? Let's break all of this down step by step, so you can understand exactly what's happening and why it matters so much. First, let's understand how huge this budget really is. In 2024, Russia set aside about $172 billion for defense, which is around 6% of its entire GDP. To give you a sense of scale, that's nearly 40% of all its public spending. This money is used for paying soldiers, buying weapons, developing new military technologies, and funding operations like the ongoing war in Ukraine. For years, Putin has been pouring money into the military to maintain Russia's image as a global power and to support its aggressive strategies abroad. But now, we're hearing that this massive budget might be getting reduced. Why? The first big reason is the long-term impact of international sanctions. After the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Western countries placed heavy sanctions on Russia. These sanctions target Russia's banks, oil exports, technology imports, and many other sectors. Over time, these measures have seriously weakened the Russian economy, making it harder for the government to generate revenue. Secondly, the war in Ukraine has turned into a very costly affair. Russia initially thought it would achieve quick victory, but instead it has turned into a prolonged conflict requiring huge amounts of ammunition, advanced equipment, and continuous reinforcement of troops. Maintaining this pace military spending is draining Russia's national reserves, and it's not just about war expenses. Back home, ordinary Russians are struggling with inflation, rising prices of food and everyday goods, and an overall decline in living standards. Public dissatisfaction is rising. To keep people happy, the government has to spend more on social programs and subsidies. So, where do they find the money? They start looking at cutting from other areas, and the defense budget is a major target. Reports from inside Russia suggest that the Ministry of Finance has already started discussions on budget cuts and possible ways to reduce military spending later this year. So what happens if these cuts actually go through? First, the modernization of Russia's military could slow down. Over the past decade, Russia has invested heavily in upgrading its tanks, fighter jets, missiles, and naval forces. Budget cuts might delay or even cancel some of these projects, which means Russian forces might have to continue using older, less reliable equipment. Second, troop morale could be affected. Less funding means fewer resources for soldiers, potential delays in salaries and benefits, and possibly less support on the battlefield. When soldiers feel unsupported, it can directly impact their willingness to fight and their overall performance. Third, this could weaken Russia's overall military position in Ukraine. Ukrainian forces with strong Western support have been putting up strong resistance and even pushing back in some areas. If Russia has to scale back on supplies or reinforcements due to budget cuts, Ukraine might gain a tactical advantage. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Even if the budget is cut, Russia's defense spending will still remain huge compared to many other countries. We are not talking about a complete collapse of the Russian military. Instead, it's about reducing the pace and scale of its operations and modernization plans. On the international stage, these budget cuts could also send a strong signal. They show that Russia's aggressive foreign policy is not as sustainable as it might seem. It might give NATO and Ukraine more confidence to continue resisting and even escalate certain counteroffensives. Another important point is how this affects Russian society. While the Kremlin hasn't officially announced these cuts yet, signs are emerging that the government is preparing people for more economic hardships. There have been discussions about increasing taxes in some sectors and scaling back certain welfare schemes to manage the overall budget crisis. For many ordinary Russians, this could mean even tougher times ahead. Rising prices, fewer subsidies, and economic uncertainty might increase internal tensions against the government. In the long term, this could affect Putin's popularity and his grip on power. So friends, what does this all mean in simple terms? Russia is facing a classic dilemma: continue pouring huge amounts into military spending and risk a domestic economic crisis, or cut defense spending and weaken their global military posture. In a way, It's like choosing between two bad options. No matter which one they pick, there will be consequences both at home and abroad. To sum it all up, Russia's potential defense budget cuts show us that war is not just about tanks and missiles, it's also about economics, public sentiment, and long-term sustainability. You can't keep fighting forever if your economy is bleeding and your people are suffering. So, what do you think? Will these budget cuts really happen? Or is it just a strategy to confuse opponents? And if they do happen, will it finally give Ukraine a decisive upper hand? Tell me what you think in the comments below. If you found this breakdown informative and easy to understand, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this.